Hi, and welcome to A Drummer's Guide to, the podcast answering your questions about what it takes to be a professional musician aside from actually playing your instrument. My name is Emily Dolan Davis. I've been a drummer since 1999, professionally since 2008, and helping others to do the same since 2018. So I'm going to start out with a follow-up message that I've had from last week's episode, which was 212. Tempo Wars, about it was a musician who was having difficulties with a band member who essentially, he was a band leader who was they were having issues with the tempo of songs, playing songs at the right tempo, and they were asking me, like, how can I sort this out? How can I mitigate this? So if that sounds interesting to you, go listen to the last episode. But I did get a message back from them after they listened to the episode and an update about what's been happening. So I thought I'd read it to you because I thought that this was super interesting, right? So they said, this was from Anonymous, still Anonymous, said, "Hi Emily, just listened to your podcast and it was great. Advice was really good. A lot has happened since then. Mainly his frustration spilled over and he threatened to go to the music manager about my playing. So I actually ended up talking to the assistant manager, who is also a drummer, asking for his opinion on the whole thing, and he was able to help, and if he was able to help as well. The assistant manager was shocked by the whole thing, as he couldn't see any issues with anything I was doing, and it was nice. It led to some vindication on my part. See, acknowledgement is a huge thing. So the band leader seems to have backed off of me a lot, but he made the mistake of frustrating the rest of the band and not listening to their wants and needs. He was actually off sick for a few days, we suspect caused by stress, bless him, and sadly it's been a bit of a highlight for the rest of the band, as we were able to play some of the forbidden music on the fly without being micromanaged. He's since returned to work, but we are due a band meeting, all of us eager but reluctant to have, as our main concern has been making sure that we're not making him feel picked on. So your advice about acknowledgement was extremely useful, which I'm so glad to hear, and I love that you have that kind of approach. It's so good. I'm hoping to have this meeting as a group, and I'll make a point of saying that we do acknowledge and respect the work that he's already done and the effort he makes. It's just that we want to be able to do more, and we're capable of it, which I love. I think that's fair. He's clearly very insecure about his own playing, and he's not a musical director, more a musician, so you're right with the suspicion about him not having a deep understanding of what you'd expect a musical director or band leader to have, and I think he won't admit it, but he is intimidated by that. Sorry for sending you a bit of an essay. Hope you're still managing to stay nice and warm and have a great Christmas and New Year. And I love this. I messaged back and said, look, do you mind if I share this? And they were like, absolutely, go for it. And then what I love about this message back, they said, yeah, go for it. But this bit I really enjoyed, because said it's all been a bit crazy, but at the very least a very good learning experience. I've also tried some of the things with the metronome that you suggested. There's a setting on the Tempo metronome app that turns the click on and off, and now that's part of my limited practice and warm up I do, and it's definitely made a difference, more to my own reassurance. So everything about this I love. Obviously, it's nice to hear that the episode helped. That's always nice for my ego, so I feel like I'm actually helping. But so the reason that I really love that second message is that this person is choosing to see this as a learning experience. And let me tell you, I think that mindset of just like, this is hard, and I know that this person has been incredibly frustrated with this. Like, we've spoken outside of the episode that I did, and despite the frustration, and especially with tempos and drummers, it is like basically creating a wound and then sticking your finger in and wiggling it about. It's awful. It's like, of all the things to like bring to us as a musician, as a drummer, tempo is a bit of a sore spot. If someone, like, I still have that, I'm like, really? But often on the inside. So the fact that they've chosen to come at this with like this is a learning experience and I'm grateful for that sort of thing, I think is so fantastic. And I truly believe that that is one of the mindsets that sets apart professionals from hobbyists or semi-professionals, is this kind of capacity to take difficult things and learn from them. It's at least the pattern that I've seen a lot in my coaching students. Like, the ones that really thrive are the ones that, like, they always want to find something to learn from difficult situations, and I think it's fantastic. So I have to say, like, kudos to them. And also this approach of, like, they know that this meeting's coming up and it's not going to be going in all guns blazing, you're wrong, rah, rah, rah. It's this element of acknowledgement and just a human level of, like, this person is clearly very stressed, and yes, it might be related to this, it might be something completely different that you're not aware of. And I think making space for that and allowances for that and not pointing fingers is just so, it's so much bigger than just music. It's about creating a nice environment that then is going to translate to the rest of the band, which is going to translate to the audience, which is going to translate to the people that you're working with in a wider sense. And I love this. I couldn't hope for a better response in terms of, yes, it's nice hearing, yes, nice things about the episode, thank you very much, pat on the back, whatever. But more than that, it's like the approach and the mindset that this person is in. I just think it's beautiful. So thank you so much, Anon, for sending a follow-up of what's happening, and hopefully that response has helped anyone else that's struggling with tempo wars, as I named the episode, because it's a thing. It's a thing. It does happen, and dealing with people that are insecure and how their insecurities kind of manifest, I suppose, present themselves, and how their insecurities are thrown up all over other members of the team, if you like. So anyway, I found that quite interesting, and I hope you did too. So if you have a question yourself, please do go to emilydrums.com/AMA. You can ask your question. The more specific you are, the better for me, because I can really get into the nitty-gritty detail of what I feel will help. So yeah, if that's of interest to you, if there's something you're struggling with at the moment, or a general question about something that you're not sure about, emilydrums.com/AMA. And that is exactly what today's question person has done. So I asked them, and it's so funny to me, because every time I ask this person, like, do you want a name check, or do you want to stay anonymous, or whatever? And every time, because I've spoken about him a couple of times on previous episodes, he's just like, yeah, whatever, like, kind of thing. So I'm going to shout him out. This question is from Rob Quinn, and I adore Rob. He's one of my students. He's one of my coaching students. We have great chats. So here's a side note about Rob. Aside from being a fantastic drummer and a lovely human being, he also is a genealogist. He is based in Ireland. So as a random aside, if anyone wants to find out about their genealogy, their heritage, especially if it's from Ireland, this guy is your guy, let me tell you. So if you go onto Instagram and you look up Reach Your Roots Genealogy, he will come up, and just get in touch with him and be like, hey, another listener to the podcast, and maybe he'll give you mates rates, or maybe he won't. I don't know. I didn't speak to him about that. I'm just saying it. So that's fun. Sorry, Rob. But anyway, he came to me with a question, and I was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. So here's Rob's question. And I love his question, because it's kind of, it's not a question, but it's also exactly how I think, and I love it. So here we go. Hey, Emily, just a thought for a potential episode. Trust. So, trusting bandmates to learn their parts, trusting and believing in yourself that you've rehearsed enough. You got this. Trusting the process with practicing, how important it is to be trustworthy. I don't know, this seemed like an episode till I wrote it down. Anyway, I hope all's well with you. Look forward to chatting in the next few weeks, Rob. And I was like, I love this. Like, there's not quite a question, but yet there's many questions. And I just thought, yeah, like, this trust in, I think, well, in life generally is rather important. But let's talk specifically about music, because I think it's quite an underrated and underappreciated part of creating a career. And for me, my journey with trust in terms of music has been, it's been a journey. A journey is the only way to do it, to say it, because I think that a lot of my career has been about finding other musicians that I trust. And I'm not talking personally necessarily. I mean, I happen to trust, I'd say 99.9% of the people that I have had the fortunate pleasure of working with, but it's more a trust musically. And that is an incredibly difficult thing to find. You think that, well, I thought that, especially when I was starting out. And actually, no, I'd love to tell you it was just when I was starting out. I consistently have been disappointed in the assumption that I've had that people will work to a similar level or have a similar standard of competency in what they're trying to do as I do. And I have time and time again, from when I very first started out right up until fairly recently, I have consistently been surprised in a bad way and like let down by like, oh God, I've done all this work and this person who's doing the same job as I am but in a different role doesn't have that, like has such a low level of like want to do a good job. And yet we're standing on the same stage, we're on the same tour, whatever it is, like, you know, in the same studio, and yet we're still here doing the same job. And I would wrestle with this. I think I still do to a point because I'm still feeling things about it. So I do feel that there are different levels when it comes to this. So the sort of, for me, the baseline level certainly is, and this is the epitome for me. Not the epitome. Yes, this is the epitome for me because it's the most consistent. And I've spoken about this multiple times, and I'm not going to name any names, and I'm not going to name any artists, and I'm not going to name any situations. But a lot of times it's coming into rehearsals having not learnt the material. Now, it's not just such a huge pet peeve of mine. It's a pet peeve of so many musicians that I work with. And there are certain situations that I've been in where you could literally draw a line down the middle of the room and you would have the people who are unprepared, who are kind of a little more, let's say, semi-professional kind of thing. And then all the people that are not just prepared, overly prepared, probably because we're slightly anxious all the time and all these things. There's reasons. We all have, you know, slight differences in our brain chemistry, should we say. And, you know, I would firmly put myself in that other category because we are, you know, we're not just doing that gig, we're doing multiple other gigs. We're always like out there doing stuff, right? Very much professional, have been for many years. And I find it such a determining factor. But anyway, the point is, I know that the people on that side of the room that are very overprepared, all those people I trust implicitly. Like musically, I trust them. I know that if I get called for a gig, get asked to put a band together or whatever, can you bring in a guitarist, can you bring in a keys player, whatever, they are only going to come from that side of the room. They're not going to come from the semi-professional side of the room because I can't trust them. I can't trust them to turn up and actually do what they're meant to do. I can't trust them to be prepared. I can't trust them to actually have learnt the songs. And this can lead to really, like, I used to get quite resentful about it and passive aggressive. I'm not going to lie to you. I think I've spoken about this a little bit. And I don't like myself as that person. So I really had to change my mindset with that. And the way that I did that was I'm going to say luckily, because this is why this works for me. Luckily, 99.99% of the time, I'm working for an artist. So this is not my band. This is not my name on the ticket. This is not my name on the door. Nobody is coming to see me unless it's like family members or friends. So therefore, I need to reconcile the fact that if the artist is happy, then I'm happy. If the artist is happy with them, you know, sometimes I've been in situations where by the end of rehearsals, some band members still don't know their parts and they're still making quite major mistakes that are very audibly visible, which doesn't make sense. But, you know, you can hear the mistakes very clearly. But if the artist is like, it's good enough, then I need to be like, okay, lead from the front. If the artist says it's good enough, I need to believe that it's good enough. I can only do as good as I can do. I can't control this situation because I'm not the one paying the bills. And therefore, if the artist is happy, I need to be happy. So I kind of had to learn how to do that, which I still find hard. It's very hard when you feel like, yes, but I'm part of this group, this situation, and this reflects badly on me also, which I struggle with still. I always have. My way of dealing with that in the past was just leaving the situation, which is fine if you want to be, you know, on your moral high horse and all that sort of jazz, but at the same time, bills need to be paid, so it's not always appropriate. Sometimes you just gotta get on with it, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's kind of how I try to deal with those sorts of things. So that's kind of I want to say the low level of trust that needs to happen for me, at least, or the low levels of trust that you can come into contact with, should we say. And like I say, for me, my baseline is like, right, if the artist is happy, then I need to be okay with this. Like, at the end of the day, it's up to them. It's not my gig. It's not my gig. Therefore, I'm just here doing my thing. Fine. I'll do the best I can. Fine. So there's that level of trust that you can have. Now, there's a second level of trust that I have experienced, which is an extreme level of trust, where things have gone extremely wrong. And this can be on a gig. In fact, I'm just literally thinking of instances of this happening that I hadn't thought about. This can be on the actual gig when you're on stage, or this can be prior to a gig, for instance. So I'm going to talk to you about two different situations of this. So there was one gig where it was with Tom Bailey and from the Thompson Twins. It was in 2014, and what happened was it's still so awful. There's some footage of this online, by the way, if you'd like to see an absolute cacophony. It couldn't have been worse. This was Tom Bailey's first gig in 30 years of playing. It was a huge deal. It was at, oh my goodness, what was it? Rewind Festival in, it's not Reading. Reading was sub 89. That was the first gig we had, which was a warm-up gig. But the Rewind, Henley on Thames, that was it. Henley on Thames, first gig in 30 years. The last gig he'd played, I wasn't even alive. And this was a huge deal. We'd done weeks of rehearsals. We had a silent stage, which means that everyone was on in-ears, everyone was on electronic instruments, okay? And basically, to cut a very long story short, we went on stage and my ears were not working. And bear in mind, this whole gig is to click. There is track involved. It's 2 keys players, drums, and Tom. So that is the setup. And my click wasn't working. And I hear the intro track and I'm sitting down, but I'm hearing it from the slapback from a festival, which, as you can imagine, I'm at. Anyway, when that happened, I mean, it couldn't have been worse. It couldn't have been worse. It was awful. I'd love to say I saved it. No, I didn't. Not even slightly. But what happened in that moment is that I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even have a click. I can't hear the track. I can only hear the slapback, which is impossible. But what happened in an instant is that a wonderful tech came running behind me, like freaking out, bless him, to try and fix the problem. Like he was like, we are going to sort this straight away once he realized what had happened. And then simultaneously, Angie on keys clocked what had happened, what was happening somehow, because she's very, very, she's very experienced. And she started, she was playing keys, but at the same time, she was giving me a click with her left hand. She was on my right. So I could see her left hand while she's playing the parts. And I was like, I don't know how you're doing this. This is crazy. Just so that I could play to her hand, which was crazy. And the whole thing was insane. But in that moment, I was like, I can trust these people, because then within probably, I want to say it felt like, a year, but it was probably about 15 seconds, which is a long time on stage in front of an audience. And when you don't have click and you don't, probably less time, it's probably like 10 seconds, they had sorted my click. They had a backup system because, again, I trust these guys. And you know, it was fine, and we carried on the gig. You know, at some point they were on the knife's edge of saying, pull the gig, like, stop the show, we need to sort this out and come back on. But it was such a big deal that, you know, someone made the call of like, no, it's gonna just give it a couple more seconds. And luckily it got sorted and we carried on. It's fine. Fun gig past that point. But if you want to see something funny, there is footage of it, and I've never watched it. I can't bear to. My ego can't handle it. I'm not gonna lie. I would just crumble into a ball. Oh, it's so awful. Anyway, so that happened, but that was such a telling moment of like, I can trust the people around me. Like, I feel safe with these people when things go wrong in the most wrong way possible, and so quickly on stage. That's when, you know, I was caught by these people, by something that was literally just a technical glitch. That's all that happened there. So that's one sort of extreme, if you like. Another extreme, which I've spoken about, maybe not at length, I don't know, you know me, at length is like hours for me, so maybe not at length, but the gig that I did with Tricky, where unfortunately we lost the guitarist and the keys player, who was also the MD, and the MD had all the track, so we lost essentially the backing track, the keys player and the guitarist. Tricky's music, if you don't know, is trip hop. It's heavily electronic. So all we were left with was a bass player, me, a backing singer, and Tricky himself. So not the most electronic of instruments when it comes to his music. No tracks. So it was to say it was a nightmare, and it was just like, what now? How do we even do this? What was interesting was that when that happened, well, two things were interesting. First of all, I don't think I spoke about this, but we had an emergency meeting. Maybe I have spoken about this. And it was in someone's room. I don't know. We were in China, I believe. I think we were in China. And we all had this meeting in the room. And basically, the TM, the tour manager, said, look, there's two ways we can go with this. Either we cancel the gig or we make it work somehow. And we came to the consensus, okay, I guess we're just going to have to make this work. And I think that was sort of a signal to Tricky himself. Okay, I can trust these guys to get it done somehow. And then we went to the venue, and it was like, right, we need to make a plan. And by we, I mean me, because I'm a control freak, which has its benefits in these sorts of situations. So I was like, right, here's what's going to happen. We're going to learn the songs from the album. We're going to get in touch. Sorry, the front of house was going to get in touch with the record label to send over the tracks so that he had some tracks. But they only had the newest album. A lot of the songs we were playing were off the old albums. So what we did was put together a set list, and we were learning the songs as they were on the record, which was nowhere close to how we were playing them. So it was essentially relearning a whole set's worth of songs. And some of these songs are only like 2.5 minutes, and we had like an hour-and-a-half contract, I think. So there were a lot of songs on this list. Now, my way of dealing with things when things go wrong like this is to take as much control as possible, because I know I can trust myself. And I will come on to that in a minute. But I took the reins a little bit, me, the front of house engineer, and then one of the techs. And we were like, right, let's get this done. But interestingly, the rest of the band kind of took a step back and just went and were nowhere to be seen. And I was like, I don't understand what is happening here. Like, why are we not all in this together? We need to trust each other on this. Like, and basically what happened was, on the gig, they were turning to me to, like, on the gig, to see what the next section was. They didn't even learn the songs. And I was like, oh, I don't understand. Like, it's not my vibe at all. I want to know as much as I can. Like, when I tell you the whole thing, we had nothing. We started with nothing, basically, and we had to build something within this day. So anyway, consequently, by taking the reins in that way and sort of, I guess, being someone that other people clearly were trusting in me, these other band members, you know, turning around to me, Tricky was asking me, you know, what's the next song, blah, 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 blah. And consequently, he then said to me, like, afterwards, he was like, right, you're my MD now. And I was like, sorry, what now? Like, I've never done anything like that before. And I was like, okay. And I just straight away was like, all right, well, I need to work this out. We need to run a whole new show. We need to have a whole new way of doing it. And I worked it out, which is great. It was a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot. But consequently, that same, as I spoke about in rehearsals, that same line was drawn in that moment where the front of house engineer and the tech, the backline tech, I was like, I can trust you. You're my guys. Like, I know that no matter what happens, we will get through this. But the other side of that line, I was like, well, I'm never going to call you for a gig. I can't. How can I? I can't trust you in moments when things go wrong, because things always go wrong. Things will always go wrong. That is an inevitable thing. It's how you react in those moments. They're very, very important. So, yeah, as I say, I think those are two fairly explicit ways that has happened in the moment, that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's happened. And then you got in rehearsals. This then translates, you know, people recognize the people that they can trust. I'll be honest, it's not sexy. It's, you know, to be known as the reliable one, which I have been, is yeah, it's not the funnest thing to be labeled with, but at the same time, you know, there's an honor to that. And I remember the first time feeling that was when I was doing the Cher Lloyd gig and being asked to do playback by the musical director, and I was like, wow, they're really entrusting me here. It felt really like, wow, what an honor. And at the same time, oh my God, I'm terrified. And I was so terrified. And it was the last day of rehearsals and I was like freaking out and my anxiety was going crazy. But anyway, I managed to step up and do it and I learned a lot and that was great, but it was very stressful, as it often is. But again, he felt that he could trust me, and that there was something so beautiful about that. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to say when it comes to sort of finding your people. And I wanted to mention as well, you know, the further that I have gone through my career, the more of those types of people that I've picked up, those similar levels of like, I can trust you and you can trust me. And I think the elite level of that for me, elite experience where every single person in the room, not just the band, but everyone involved with the whole thing, was that elite level of trust for me, was the Voice Kids. 100%. And I don't know whether it was just because of the sheer volume of people, but every single person involved in that, especially the band, I trust implicitly. I would grab hold of every person on that gig and I would put them on every gig I ever could, because I know that A, they bring their A game every day, every moment of every day. But B, when things go wrong, they adapt so quickly, and then it's not even a thing. They're just like, yep, cool, all right, we move, and you know they're going to get the job done. And that is priceless. So let me tell you, when it comes to being, let's talk about, well, I don't want to use the word employability, but if you want to get called for gigs, being a trustworthy person is like so good. It's one of the highest, for me at least, one of the highest kind of accolades that you can have, that another musician would trust you with their gig, or with bringing them into like an artist that they're working with. The fact that they can trust you to come and do a good job, highest compliment of all. Forget about the playing. Trust. That is actions, they speak. And it's the same with how you build that trust. It's in those moments of adversity and how you handle them, I think, is how that trust is built, at least in an extreme way. I think at the very basic level, it's just coming in and doing a good job. That's how the trust is built. I wanted to touch briefly as well on how to build trust with yourself, because that's a whole thing. Like, if you can't trust yourself to be able to do the job, you're going to bring that like lack of confidence into the room with you wherever you go. That's happened to me. That has been me for many years, where probably unconsciously I have brought in that sort of lack of confidence, and that has projected to other people, and they're not sure why they don't quite want to work with me or whatever else, but they say they take a step back. It may be many other things, but I think that's been a big part of the reason for me personally. That and not being able to be vulnerable enough with people. But anyway, that's a whole nother episode for a whole nother time. So yeah, in terms of like trusting yourself, I think it comes down to very basic things. And that is, as I always say, one of my favorite things is recording yourself and then listening back. So record, review, repeat, the 3 R's. So, and whether that's auditorially or visually, like filming yourself, if you want to work on your performance side of things, which I always encourage people to do, just getting that feedback and understanding, like really truly knowing what you sound like, how you play, where you sit within the band. You know, let's go back to tempos, the speed at which you're playing versus what speed you think you're playing at, you know, all these things. There needs to be an inherent trust with yourself that you are doing the job that you're meant to be doing. And the only way you're going to do that, don't ask for other people's opinions on that, because everyone has their own stuff going on anyway. Find a way to, like I say, record yourself, listen back, and build that trust with yourself. The other thing is just things like learning your instrument to a point that you know when things go wrong, you can make it work. And it's not about being perfect. We are all going to make mistakes here. You know, things are going to be out of your control sometimes. Like when my ears went down. I'm not going to lie to you, I still am really angry about that at myself, even though I literally couldn't have done anything more. I really couldn't have done. But it's still, I still feel a bit like, oh, that's such a shame. I think it's partly because it's online. It just makes it so much worse. But anyway, which brings me on to my next thing. Cutting yourself some slack, Emily. Cut yourself some slack. Be a bit kinder to yourself. But yeah, I think just developing that level of compassion for yourself is a really good skill. It's not one I'm great at, but I would highly recommend it. Apparently it's fantastic. But yeah, I think building trust from the inside out, knowing what you're capable of, knowing that, yeah, you can trust yourself to do a thing, because that's where I've certainly got to with myself. And let me tell you, it's taken years and years and years of doubt, trying things out, failing, realizations that I'm not as good as I thought I was, or things weren't as I thought they were, or, you know, various other things. But as I sit here today, although I have a multitude of flaws, there are certain things that I know in my core about myself that I know I can handle. Yes, they might be hard. That's not the point. The point is I can handle them if I need to, and if I choose to, which I think is an important distinction. Just because hard things are happening doesn't mean that you should be taking them on. But if you have the choice to, fine. I know that I can handle it. There are certain things I know I can handle. And that's only come through adversity. It's only come through those nightmare gig moments where everything went wrong, or like the kit started falling apart, or my bass drum beater went through the head, or the snare drum, bottom snare drum head broke. Crazy. On a filming day, as we're filming. Oh, the stress. Anyway, all these things, they make you grow as a stronger person. But I think this kind of thing of building trust within yourself first is great, and then you can start to, you know, and it's not something you can force with, trust me, you will trust me. It doesn't work like that. It just will come with time, and about how people can rely on you and how you show up day to day, but then how you also show up in adversity. So I'm just going to check my notes, make sure that I've covered everything that I wanted to. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to say. First of all, like knowing when to let go of things, like in terms of resentment of if people haven't learned their parts, for instance. Like I've already spoken about this, knowing when to let go and just saying, this isn't my gig, this is the artist gig. And off the back of that, something that I found so helpful was once I started having my own outlet to present myself as I was and wanted to be, was so like empowering, I think is the only word to use. Because before I would be so caught up on, if I was only involved with, say, one artist that, or like known to be involved with, obviously I've always been doing multiple gigs at once, but at any one time I'm only doing one kind of visible gig, let's call it, like, I don't know, with a well-known artist. And if that well-known artist was acting in a way that maybe didn't sit with my personal values, And I was getting fearful that I would be associated with that kind of behavior that they were exhibiting, that I was like, absolutely not. I don't like this. I don't agree with this. This is not okay. But obviously, I'm being employed. This is my boss and it is what it is. By having my own thing to then present myself, which, as you might be able to tell, things like this podcast has been great in just being able to be my weird self and show you who I am. And, you know, some people don't like that, and that is absolutely fine, because let me tell you, the people that do connect with me through this podcast are the best. I had the best conversation with somebody new yesterday. I will say their first name, not their surname, for anonymity's sake, but Jeremy, that was such a fun conversation. Also, the person that is written in this question, Rob, such a fantastic person, such a joy to get to chat to and work with. But yeah, like I say, you kind of attract that like for like personality, but also that like for like level of trust, if that makes sense. So anyway, I hope that has helped you in some way. I feel like this has been quite a rambly one, but thank you again, Rob Quinn, for your question. If you yourself have a question you'd like me to answer on a future episode, if you go to emilydrums.com/AMA. And again, if you are interested in your genealogy and specifically your Irish genealogy, then look up Reach Your Roots Genealogy on Instagram. That's Rob Quinn. He's fantastic. He's so cool. Even just to chat to, he's awesome. And I think he offers like a free taster. So definitely get in touch with him if that sounds good to you. Also, I wanted to give a little shout out to another one of my students, Louis Morehouse, who I had the pleasure, we've been working together for 3 years. And I had the pleasure of finally meeting him in the flesh this past, when was it, Tuesday? He played a gig at the Holy Trinity Church in Sloane Square. And to say that I was like the proudest coach ever, he played so fantastically. The gig was for a charity called Solving Kids Cancer. And Louis, if you're listening, I know you'll be laughing right now, and only me and you know why right now. And oh my gosh, it was just the best. He made a speech. It was just, he's so eloquent and funny. And then played 2 songs with this wonderful singer called Serene. It was just, and the whole night was just so fantastic. But I finally got to meet Louis, and it's very rare that I get to meet my students in the flesh. But it was the best. It was so, so good. So I've got to give a shout out to Louis. Yeah, it was so, oh, I just loved it. Everything about it I loved. But anyway, so thank you to everyone. And again, if you have your own question, emilydrums.com/AMA. Do the usual, like, share and subscribe. You know the drill. Now, I believe I'm going to take a couple of weeks off now because it is sort of Christmas and New Year, and I'll be honest, I hope that no one that I'm going to be spending Christmas with is listening to this. I doubt it. I've got so much cooking to do because I do these like boxes of treats that have like cookies. They're going to have these chocolate cupcake things, and then like these lemon drizzle cakes and brandy snaps. And then there's this stuff called lemon koji, which is like fermented lemon rice, very good for you. And also I've made my own homemade miso that's been fermenting for like a year. So I'm so excited. But anyway, I need to do a lot of cooking basically. And that is why I can't really do these episodes, because I also have an essay due that's due on the 8th of January. There's a whole thing. So I will probably be taking the next couple of weeks off. If you happen to get an episode, it will just be a bonus because I felt that I had the time and capacity. But other than that, I will probably not be back until January, the first week of January, maybe. Excuse me, sorry. But anyway, I hope that you have a wonderful festive period. If you celebrate, however you celebrate, have a wonderful new year. And yeah, I guess I will see you in 2026 for another episode. Sending you lots and lots of love. And also, if you want to have some one-on-one coaching in the new year, if you want to have your New Year's resolution that you want to absolutely nail 2026, over a free 30-minute coaching session, you probably know all about it. Go to emilydrums.com, blah, 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 blah. You know the drill. 30 minutes, it's free. Hit me up. Anyway, sending you lots of love to you and all of yours. And I will see you in 2026. All right, lots of love to you. Bye.